Well, hello, and welcome to Hotelcast TV, Ask Suites webinar series. In case you don't know, Ask Suites the world leader in conversation booking solutions for hotels, chains, and resorts. Ask Suites develop an omni-channel communication platform that unifies all chats in one. Ask Suite is also the 2020, 2021, and 2022 Best Hotel Chatbot for Hotels in the world by Hotel Tech Awards. And finally, our Hotel Cast, our podcast, was named the second best hospitality podcast by International Hospitality Institute. That's pretty awesome. Thank you very much for all the support that we get along the way. If you want to know more about us, I invite you to follow Ask Suite on LinkedIn, where you can find upcoming webinars, podcasts, events, a lot of good content, I promise you, about the hotel industry, hotel sales, hotel marketing, and so on. So, today we are here to talk about how to boost your hotel sales performance. I see that people are starting to join us. Hello, Leandro. It's already saying hello. So, hello, everybody, and welcome again. My name is Paula. I'm the content coordinator at Ask Suite, and I'm happy to be the host of this live show. So, please let us know where you're watching the show. Write your comments, questions to our guests. If you're watching this live, take this opportunity. You have a chat there. Use them. Don't be shy. Hello, Juliana from Brazil. Hello. With me, you already can see my three special guests. All of them are award winning professionals. So that's a really special panel that I have. Let me say hello to them real quickly because we do have a lot to cover about hotel sales today. First, I would like to say hello to Robin Moncrief, Area Director of Sales at Texas Western Hospitality. Her podcast, Don't Look Under the Bed, Hospitality Podcast, was named Top 30 Podcast for Hospitality 2021. So, congratulations, Robin. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being here. Welcome to the show. And can you please just introduce yourself briefly to our audience?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Paula, for having me here today. My name is Robin Moncrief. I am a 30 plus year hospitalitarian, area director of sales, and I work in a suburb Houston market. And I'm a co host of Quality Podcast, and I'm very passionate about promoting hospitality careers as an industry for the future of for the future leaders of hospitality. So thank you so much again for having me.
Thank you, Robin, for being here. So let me say hello to Carrie. Carrie from Denver. Hello, Carrie. Next, I want to say hello to Susan Berry, president at Hive Marketing and podcast host at Top Floor. Also, top 30 podcast for hospitality 2021. Susan is also global top 25 social media influencer 2021. So, hello, Susan. Thank you so much for being here today. Welcome to the show. And what can you tell us about you a little bit for to our audience?
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. Our show, Top Floor, is about the future of hospitality. And so I hope we can dip our toes into some of those topics today.
Thank you so much, Susan. It's a pleasure to have you here. Just want to say also hello to Amanda, hello to Louise, hello everybody. And finally, we do have here Steve Stanhart, Director of Stanhart and Associates and Global Top 15 Hospitality Sales Trainer 2021. So welcome, Steve. Thank you so much for having the time to be with us today. And can you please briefly introduce yourself to our audience as well?
Yes, thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here today in these odd times for sure. I am the director of Steinhardt and Associates. We are one of the largest hotel sales and marketing consulting firms in the United States, with business in other countries as well. And one of our niches is sales training. And to date, we have been fortunate enough to train over 40,000 hospitality sales managers. So we're very proud of that and looking forward to the next 40,000.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for being here. Thanks, everybody. They're joining us today in the live show. Let me say hello. Also, I think I miss Evelyn. So, hello, Evelyn. As you can see, we are ready to start this webinar. We're gonna focused on hotel sales. I'm very happy to be the host of this panel, and I have to say I'm ready to learn from them. We had a conversation before the webinar, and I was telling them, and I can tell you all, I'm ready to learn from the experts. I even have my notepad here. I'm gonna write down everything they say. This show is recorded. You can rewatch it, and you can send also to your colleagues or whoever you think that might benefit from it, because it will be posted on LinkedIn, on YouTube, sorry, later. So yeah, so you can ask your questions again. Let me remind you that you can ask your questions during the panel. Just write on the chat, and we'll be very happy to answer you. We love interactions. So let's get this started. And we can start by talking about the challenge in the fields of sales. Of course, a lot has changed in every department, in every industry, in the whole world over the last years, and of course, sales also was affected. So I would love to hear what the experts have to say about the main challenges of in the field of sales today. So I'm going to start with you, Susan. What for you, in your opinion, what are the main challenges?
I think the main challenge facing hotel salespeople right now is sort of feeling that we're waiting for things to get back to normal. And I'm pretty sure that we will be waiting forever if we continue to do that. If we aren't putting plans and strategies in place to not go back to the way things used to be, but create demand and build new segments of business for our properties, we are in big trouble. So that's the biggest challenge that I see. We cannot keep waiting to get back to normal.
And I'm just gonna do a follow-up question to you, Susan, just to see if you agree with me. I think maybe before it was, I hear that from other panels, and I would just want to know your opinion. Before, maybe it was much easier for hotels to sell, and now, so they got kind of used to, depending on the hotel, to just wait, like you're saying. Do you think that it's what's happening? We got maybe used to, to guests would just come to you.
Sort of. So 2019 represented the 10th year in the best cycle the hotel business has ever experienced in terms of the economics of it. And so many people who are sitting in the sales office in individual hotels have only experienced an upcycle. They've only experienced the period when things were growing and growing and RevPAR and RevPAR and growing, and have not been through things like past recessions, past corrections, et cetera. So I'm not sure that hotel sales is ever easy. I don't want to create that false impression, but it was certainly a different economic cycle until the pandemic sort of came and put a stop to it. My feeling is probably we were ready for that cycle to end. And so it was like this dry kindling sitting in the fireplace, and the pandemic lit the match probably a little bit more quickly and dramatically than we had expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, Susan. And what about you, Steve? What, in your opinion, are the main challenges in the fields of sales?
Well, it's really, Susan, as you mentioned, there's two huge challenges. One is finding customers, because the customers have gone away. And there are some people that are beginning to resurface, and groups are starting to get back on the books. And we're hoping and praying that this notion of pent-up demand is about to explode, and things will get back to normal, and our lead sources will get back to normal, and the phone will start ringing off the hook. But that could be a long wait. And we really don't have any evidence to suggest that the pent-up demand is anything more than some optimistic wishful thinking. So finding customers to fill your hotels is certainly the biggest challenge, and I'll speak way more to that later. The second is we've depleted our sales teams. We furloughed so many salespeople. We shut hotels and resorts down. We completely closed them, sometimes for months at a time, and our salespeople were furloughed. They didn't wait around to get their jobs offered back. They went a different direction. They went into different industries. They went into different fields. And according to our research, most hotels now are almost back to 50% of the staffing guidelines they were before the pandemic. And as we begin to fill that second 50%, the people we're calling on, they're gone. They've left. They're not interested in coming back into the hotel industry. As much fun as they had and as successful as they were, they found other places to go. And so now we're having to reach out, and we're really looking to staff the balance of our hotel sales teams with people that have absolutely no hotel experience. So there's an enormous training curve that's going to go on when that happens. The third is, even if we're fortunate enough to book a group, we have staffing issues. The people that we laid off in the line employee positions, they're gone. They've gone back home. They've gone to wherever they've gone. They've found new industries. They've improved their life in many cases. They've gone back and got their degrees. They've gone back and switched industries. So even if we were fortunate enough to book a group, we don't have enough people, to service the rooms. We don't have enough people to cook the food. We don't have enough people to, check them in at the desk. So the challenges are finding customers to begin with, having enough salespeople to reach out to find the customers, and if we're fortunate enough to have success booking something, having enough employees to service the groups.
Yeah, that's the three big issues, and we could seriously talk just an entire webinar, I think, with each of them. But just to have also a follow-up on what you're saying, Steve, and you're talking about, being a lot of hotels are still short, how you say, short staff?
Short staff, yeah.
Thank
Very
you.
much so.
Yeah. So how you a trainer, right? How
Yes.
do you motivate like the people? They're actually hanging there. They're still working, and they're seeing like, oh my God, they're gonna have to deal with that amount. Like I can only think that they're overwhelmed with the amount
You're
of
seeing
work.
you're seeing I'm blanking on the term for people that are fleeing industries, but you're seeing it in spades in the hospitality industry. It's hard work, it's long hours. It can be glamorous, to be sure, but people are looking for a better balance, and a lot of people have found a better balance. And to get them to come back into the hotel industry, they found ways to take care of their children. They found ways to supplement income. They found ways to move into other industries. And you're seeing wages dramatically increase just to get people to work the front desk. So there's a whole new economic paradigm shift going on right before our very eyes right now. And the shame is we really can't raise rates in order to cover those expenses, but that is an entirely different conversation.
Yeah, and we do hear some panels with different people from different countries, and that's one thing that it's global, and I think it's an announced. Okay, the pandemic made it worse, this crisis in recruitment, but at least that I can see in South America. I'm going to be very specific now. It was an announced strategy because people were already getting tired of the long hours and low payment a lot.
True.
And then happened the pandemic. I think it was just the final push, like
It's the
I
same
don't know.
thing about the kindling in the fireplace on the labor side. There was already a labor crisis. This
Yeah.
is just exacerbated and set it on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
And let me go to you, Robin. Your thoughts about the main challenge in the field of sales then.
They said it all. I have to agree with Susan. What happened is the pandemic exposed the hunters from the farmers. So anybody that was doing really, really well and getting lots of leads, getting lots of phone calls, when those phone calls dried up, they did not know what to do. They did not know how to hunt for business. So that's absolutely a challenge. Training the salespeople who are the farmers to get out there and find business. Then what Steve said is, where is the business? So you need that hunter again to find that business. So in the markets where I worked, obviously all of the corporate group dried up, the BT dried up. However, we've seen an increase in the Smurf business. I've got tons and tons of amateur youth sports that have come out. So the staff is, learning how to accommodate these types of groups. We have more wedding blocks, everybody that canceled their weddings and their blocks and all that stuff. They're coming out now to to reschedule. So we have different business now, and we're accommodating a different client. So it's a matter of retooling the operations team to manage the new guest. And those people who didn't think that the hotel was accessible to them, it's now accessible to them due to the rates and things like that we've implemented. So I wouldn't say that they're challenges, but they're more opportunities. And so we have the chance now to take care of a new guest. And to learn what it is that they need and learn their behavior.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's the challenge is to spot the opportunities, like you're saying.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of hotels here, at least, that have to reinvent themselves, and
Mhm.
like you're saying, they need to be um they need to be able to see the change, that you're not your regular customer might not be attracted to you anymore. You have
Right.
to adapt, and I think that's a
Mhm.
struggle, at least, that we see here. Amanda is saying great point of view, Robin, and Mateo is saying what a great panel. Hello, Mateo, thank you for being here. If you're watching this live, please interact with us, ask the questions. We are just now starting. We just talk about the main challenges of the field of sales. And let's go to the next topic then, and I would love to see your opinions as well. It's about what any manager, I think, is striving for, which is a high performing team. Of course, we all want that. And with all that challenge that you guys already said, that can be even more critical. So I'm going to start with you, Robin, now. What do you think makes a sales team a high performing team, in your opinion?
In my opinion, high performing sales team, they're highly collaborative. I've been in sales myself a little over 20 years, so I would say some of the attributes or traits would be having confidence, being resilient, um, being tenacious, not giving up, not taking anything personally, and realizing that the selling doesn't start until somebody tells you no. So that's when the real selling starts. And just having the tools. I'm from the School of Marriott, so I worked for Marriott a little over about 20 years or so, and I still use the same sales method. So, you have to have your planning and research, building rapport. Qualifying is huge. You can't get anywhere until you qualify the business. Obviously, offer up a proposal, overcome the objections, clarify, to make sure that you understand what they're needing. And so funny to me, a lot of people don't gain the commitment or ask for the business. So I think just having somebody that understands the steps of the sales process is going to make you successful.
Yeah, just want to follow up on what you're saying, Robin, because I never worked in sales per se. I was a hotelier, but I was more front desk, and then
Mhm.
and then moved to reservations and all that. But anyway, I did work as a salesperson in another industry, and you said something about being resilient, and not
Yeah.
taking when you get a no, it's when it started, and that's one of the things I think it doesn't fit because for me. I was a horrible salesperson, like seriously. I'm much better in marketing because or what I'm doing now. I think it just didn't fit I don't know, my profile, and I see that in hotels, like we were saying before, that that people, maybe hoteliers that work in sales, they don't have that resilience that
Right.
you were
Yeah.
talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's one no, and then that's it. And it's not there's a lot of things that you can do after, right?
Yeah. The
Yeah.
other thing I would say is you have to make sure you have the right person in the right seat. So again, it goes back to knowing who is the farmer on the team and who is the hunter on the team.
Yeah.
That's going to be very important. And again, just having a collaborative culture where everybody brings their ideas to the table and we make it together. I always want everybody to achieve their goals. And if somebody's, lagging a little bit behind, we find a way. We want everybody to go on the incentive trip. That was like one of the biggest things when I was, when I was a junior salesperson. I always wanted to get the bonus, and I always wanted to go on the trip to Hawaii or Aruba or whatever it was. A company sponsored trip was what drove me. And I wanted all my coworkers to go with me as well. So
Yeah, well, we can of course talk more about that, but as I can hear, at least in general, many
yeah,
hotels don't work with bonuses or commissions or anything,
right.
and I think they're missing. That's really good that you highlight that. Let me just say hello to Canada. I have someone from Canada, Nizar here. Hello, Nizar. Hello from UK as well. We love when it's like so international, the panel. So thanks everybody for watching us. And let me go to Susan then. Susan, is the same question to you. What do you think makes a sales team a high performing team?
I think the most important piece of this puzzle is if you are able to talk to, speak to, and think like a customer versus thinking like a hotel.
Sure.
So if you are continuously talking about your meeting space and your beautiful rooftop view and your et cetera, my friend Tammy Gillis calls this pitch slapping in her book, Room to Grow. But it's the idea that hotel salespeople have a tendency to all about the hotel and all about what matters to them and not take the time to understand and speak to what matters to their customer. I just don't believe that there are magic tricks in sales. I think we have to behave like business people. What would you want to know? A great example of this, I have just gone through this experience of trying to book something with a hotel, and I want to know how much it costs, and they can't produce an estimate for me. So I have to do it myself in a spreadsheet. Well, okay, I mean, I know how to work Excel, but wow, would it have been a much better customer experience for me if they had thought, gee, she's asking for an estimate. How about I whip up a quick Excel spreadsheet or whatever? I don't know. Does that make sense?
Anything to make it easier for you. I totally agree with you.
And to think like me, the budget is an important piece of the puzzle. It doesn't mean that I'm only going to choose the lowest rated item, but I do need to know how much it costs.
Yeah, I think listening is as important as talking, and
More.
more. Yeah. So if you understand who you're talking to, then you understand the needs. Then it's much easier to at the end sale. But yeah, you're totally right, Susan. And what about you, Steve? What are your thoughts on?
Thanks. It's a deep question that we can't really cover in too much detail, but we've done a lot of study on teams, and it's one of the areas we spent quite a bit of time doing, collecting empirical data on. And we are very clear on the notion that great productivity leads to great morale, not great morale leads to great productivity. And so what's really important is how the key performance of a high performing team is how much of your day are you spending selling versus servicing or administering. The truth is, if you break hotel sales down, there's only three things a hospitality salesperson can do with their day. You can sell, you can service, and you can administer. And if you're spending an abundant amount of time servicing and administering, that means that's at the expense of selling. And it's very simple. The single biggest common denominator that exists amongst every successful hotel sales team we have ever worked with, and that's well into the thousands now, is each of their salespeople are spending 75% of their day selling. You can't do it every day, but that's the goal. When you arrive at work, or you pick up the phone, or you start Zooming, are you in a position to spend 75% of your day in the selling mode, which means you have to either be in the face of, over the phone with, or breaking bread with a customer. And notice the internet doesn't show up there. CVent does not show up here. This is a whole different category that we'll address another day. And I do want to talk a little bit about lead catching, but that's a different kind of selling. That puts you in a selling mode where you're immediately in a competitive environment. I want to have my salespeople to be in a selling mode where we're not really competing with any other hotels. That's my greatest chance for victory. And that's my greatest chance to maintain the integrity on my rate and my meeting room rental, my food and beverage minimums, etc. So it's the people that are spending time identifying new accounts, developing plans to make presentations to them, and then earmarking enough time. And directors of sales and general managers, you have to protect your salespeople to make sure that they're being allowed time to sell, and you're not the cause of the interruption.
I really love what you're saying now, Steve, because I do think that, and that happens in different sectors, even inside of the hospitality and other industry. Like, if you're sales, you should be selling, and you should be focused on that. And unfortunately, we see a lot of a lot of time being waste, I want to say, but I'm not sure if it's the strong word, with other activities that could be easily, or at least it could be done differently. In a you could be working smarter, and we see that that happens in different sectors.
Well, and this
And
is particularly true as we hopefully come out of COVID. The administrative assistants have been furloughed. And so the salesperson is responsible for, we affectionately call it, booking and cooking. They're doing their own paperwork. They're doing their own setups. They're actually having to come in and manage the events. And we all do what we have to do. I'm not above bussing the table. I'm not above meeting a bus to make sure the key packets are handed out. But that is not the best use of my time. And honest to God, that is not in my job description. And I'm not being an elitist about it. It's that every second I spend doing something that's not selling is a second that I could have been selling. And you'll pay for that down the road, whatever your booking cycle is.
yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And it's not about not wanting to do something else, like you're saying. It's about that doing what you're best and you were hired for, and bringing the best results for your company. I totally agree with you. And I think we are just starting already talking about strategies. So I'm gonna just follow this road. When we can start talking about the main strategies in hotel sales, as we are saying, seeing a lot of things has changed, operations have changed, and all that. So I'm gonna start with you. I'm gonna go back to you, Steve. Actually, considering all this that have been said so far, what do you think are the main strategies in hotel sales that hoteliers should know at least?
It's simpler than you might think. And post-COVID, as Susan so accurately alluded to, your post-COVID sales strategies are completely new, completely different. You've got what we call old school versus new school meeting head on. And old school is good. We want some old school. I still need to entertain customers. I still need to be able to make outside sales calls. It's amazing how easily you can distinguish yourself if you offer to hand deliver a proposal. The odds of your telephone call being answered are probably higher than your email being responded to, because there are so less of them. But so that's old school. New school is what are our abilities to find new business. So the main strategy we have to have right now, in a general sense, and we don't have time to go into the specifics, and if anyone has any questions about this, please contact me afterwards, is you have to have done enough homework and enough research on any group or event that you're going after, so that by the time you pick up the phone or you deliver an email, you have so much information that the customer is compelled to at least finish the conversation. If you're asking a customer, so tell me what you're looking for, the customer's going to say, wait, I'm confused. Isn't that what you're supposed to be telling me? You want me to tell you what you're supposed to tell me? And as Susan alluded to, customers don't have time. They're not interested. You've actually just exposed yourself as a lazy salesperson. But if you can actually know the piece of business you're talking about, know some history about it, know the block, know the pickup, know where they've been, know what rates they've paid, have an understanding of what the delegates are, the constituents are, who the attendees are, then you can let the customer know you already know all of that. All they have to do is find the speakers. And the customer at that point is going to go, this is one of the best presentations I've ever received. I am compelled to at least give your hotel consideration. That will be the number one sales strategy going forward. And every directors of sales, I would recommend that you sit down with your salespeople and say, who are you going to call today? Show me the names of the people you're going to call today, and let's dry run it. Let's practice this. Now, I'm not going to do this with my senior salespeople. That would be insulting. But I want to know, do you really understand the decision-making factors? Do you really understand the decision-making process, which are two very different things? You could be making the greatest presentation in the world, and if you're not talking to the person that's actually going to make the decision, you're really relying a great deal on luck now.
Yeah.
Give them a compelling reason to consider your proposal. If you can do enough homework and research to give them an understanding that you have a clear notion of what their goals are and how you can help them meet their goals, they're going to give you consideration. And if that's not your key strategy, then I'm sure there are others, but that's the one I am really preaching to my teams right now.
Yeah, and as a potential client or consumer of even other industries, going back to what you started in your questions, the start of your answer, sorry, you were talking about knowing, doing your homework, and it's so annoying when someone tries to kind of sell you something, whatever it is, especially hotels. They're so connected with experience and all that, and they don't know you, and you're like, why you're talking this, it doesn't
What,
fit me or whatever.
one
It's
of the
like, what?
interesting thought processes is, and then I'll move on, is every client you call that is using a hotel and is not using you is already using a hotel, and it's not yours. They're perfectly happy using the hotel they're using. So for them to consider your hotel, you're going to have to know at least as much as the hotel that they're currently enjoying, because it's a lot of work to change hotels. If you've been at the same hotel month after month, year after year, it's where your buses go, it's where you send your travelers, it's where your corporate business people go, it's where you hold your groups. They're happy, and if they never hear from you, their lives are going to be fine. They're going to miss meeting you, which is a shame, but their lives are going to be fine. You need to know enough about them so that you can at least address the issues they're having at their current property, so you can be the hero and overcome those objections.
Yeah, so true. Before I go to Robin, actually, I'm gonna go to Robin and I'm gonna read the comment here, because it was something that you said, Robin. Carrie is saying here, I found that being resilient and cold calling, a lot of the competing hotels are not doing the same. I find success in handwritten notes, old school, and listening to the clients. You were talking before, what makes a high performing team, and you were talking about being resilient, right, Robin?
Yeah, that's totally, it's absolutely important to be resilient. They may not need you now, but they'll need you, in the future. So don't give up. I mean, if you give up, that's you're setting it up for somebody else to come in. So you have to maintain your resiliency. And to Steve's point about doing your research and having your pre-call preparation, that is so important. And also back to a point that Susan made is being in the shoes of a client. So my family has a reunion every year for the past 64 years, and I have an opportunity to host it. So when it comes around, and I'm looking for bids or proposals or whatever, I just would like to have a salesperson that listens to me and that will, like you said, Susan, answer my question or do the estimate or whatever the case may be. And there's 60 years of history. Well, maybe not 60, but there's at least 25 years of history that they could get. And I also provide a lot as well. So being in the shoes of the customer is also important. I would also add, like Steve said, with the knowing the client and their needs and meeting their needs, you have to know your product in and out as well. You have to know the market itself in and out, as well as your competition. That's huge. So, back in the early days of my career, I would tout that, we've got 30,000 square feet of meeting space. But then what I also learned is that didn't help anybody unless I told them, well, the ballroom is actually on the 21st floor and the breakout rooms are on the 3rd floor. So you need to be transparent as well. You need to be, upfront and transparent. And everything is not, all businesses may not work for you. But with you being upfront and transparent, you might come around later on for a different program. So I think it's just important to, again, learn what the needs are, learn where they've been before, and work for what worked well. You have to find out what worked well and why are they still at X property? Why is it working so well? Is it just because they're comfortable? Is it the rate? So I would say qualifying for me is my biggest thing.
Yeah, I like what you said. Your example of maybe what you're highlighting, like you're telling 30,000 square meters or something, was not what was appealing,
Right.
like was not what was working, and it was
Mhm.
better to talk about the bar or whatever it was. So I see that it's like almost a, I don't know if you have this experience in the United States, all of you, but I see as also as a traveler, it's being almost robotic answers, like how is your hotel, and it's like
Mhm.
it's like
Yeah.
descriptions of what it
Yeah.
is,
We've got
and
free
that's it.
breakfast. We've got a pool. We've got, you know, you do kind of have a script, but you really need to find out what it is that your client needs. And like Steve said before, you should already know that by the time you pick up the phone to call them.
Yeah. And since we're talking, just a final follow up on this, that we're talking about strategies, already talking about Robin, and people were commenting here about cold calling and being resilient and all that. What is your opinion? And if anyone else have also, this is almost a personal curiosity of mine, but what I see hoteliers struggling is when to do this. Like, I don't want it to be pushy, or when to contact them. Do you have any general tips or things that they should take into account when doing this, how do you say this, rhythm of contact?
When I reach out to someone and if they're not ready, I'll ask them. So is it okay if I reach out to you in 90 days just to see where you are? So most customers will tell you. They'll tell you. All you have to do is ask. Or just say, I'll reach out to you in 90 days to see if after your conference, or to follow up after the holidays, or whatever the case may be. But if you say that, make sure you follow up at that time if that's what you're going to do. So I will usually just ask the question and they'll let you know.
Yeah, that's a really good point, to actually follow what
Yeah.
you are saying that you're going to do. That's something that happens quite often as well. We are already past half of the show. We are heading like almost to the end. Actually, it was so fast. It feels like we hardly started. But going to Susan now. Susan, what are the main strategies in hotel sales in your opinion? And yeah, what can you tell that about practice in general?
I'm so glad you didn't skip me because I have so much to say on this topic.
No,
First of all,
never.
everyone in the audience knows now that Robin is planning a family reunion. So be sure to email her your prospecting. I'm just kidding. So for me, the things I think about when I think about effective strategies right now have to do with strategic behaviors versus like what business to go after or whatever. And the thing that I am probably guilty of repeating more than any other thing is that salespeople vastly overestimate their ability to wing it. So people think because they have the gift of the gab or they're friendly that they can just make something up in the spot and it'll be fine and it'll work. Couldn't be further from the truth. So my recommendation is that you be prepared. And I'll give you a tactical example. It is so much more difficult to work through an objection on the fly. Like you're talking to someone, they're like, well, we don't know because of blah, blah, blah. If you take the time to write down all of the most common objections you get and how you want to respond to them, just that tiny bit of preparation will make a huge difference, particularly if you remember to emphasize how it benefits the customer rather than how it benefits the hotel. I have another tactical suggestion here. So I'm just squeezing some tactics into this strategy question. And that is to maintain a lost business calendar or GRC. I don't know if people still use the word GRC, but
Yeah,
what
do.
I mean, what I mean by that is when you lose business, track where it goes to what hotels and with the number of room nights per night and all that stuff. There are two potential outcomes that can come from this. First, you can yield around that business if it's in your marketplace. But second, you have a built-in list of business to go after in the future, and you have a little bit of inside information because you know they went to the Embassy Suites down the street or whatever. The other thing I want to say, this is very countercultural when it comes to hotel sales, is, and this is not something that I have a solution for yet. So I want to say it because perhaps our audience of 100 international people will have some brilliant ideas we can all work on together. And that is that the buying process for almost everything has changed. It used to be when I started in hotel sales, you couldn't find out what our menu was unless I told you. You couldn't find out how many people classroom style would fit in XYZ square feet unless I told you. Now you can figure that out by clicking around on a website. So how do we reposition salespeople from being these gatekeepers of information, which they no longer need to be, but still are, right, into people who are not trying to sell to people who don't want to buy? What are the things that we can do to better modernize our sales process so that it matches up to how buyers actually want to buy? I don't have all the answers, but I would love some recommendations and thoughts from people.
Yeah, but like I said, personally, I don't think you have one formula fits all. I think it's to have this in mind is already an answer, or it's already a strategy per se. You know, if you have this, if you understand that it change the process of buying, and like you said, like people usually come to you, to the hotel, knowing sometimes more than the agent itself that it's answering the phone sometimes, because they research it, they you know, they see all the reviews, they see Instagram, they see everything, and the website itself, they have a lot of information. So sometimes depending if you don't have a trained staff, that it's, you know, that it's a continuous training of your staff, sometimes they actually know more than the agent. And then I guess in sales, it's a huge change the game, like in a big way, right? How you I don't know how you put the problem. I don't know the answer either, but I love that you put it out there. So
Susan, we actually, it's that you're so spot on. It's just it's brilliant.
Are we sharing brainwaves right now?
We actually asked. We host 2 customer focused workshops every year with real live decision making, meeting, event, and travel planners, and we held one recently with several Helms Briscoe travel planners. And by the way, talk about in trouble. We have some very dear friends that are longtime Helms Briscoe people. They haven't made 1 cent since March of 2020, and so they're still waiting for their group business to come back. So they broke that question that you're asking down into 2 different categories: a lead that comes to the hotel, which you're simply complying with. For example, the C-Event lead, there are 54 areas of population on the C-Event form that you must comply with, and if you don't, you get in trouble.
And so you can't build value at the point of sale.
There you're just feature spewing. And we have a whole program on how to get an edge on C-Event leads. But there you are simply saying X number of feet. Yes, you have safes in your rooms that fit laptops. It's a fairly routine exercise, and that's a whole different strategy. The strategy I think that we're most interested in is with the customer that we're sneaking up on. And when I say sneaking up on, means we don't have a pre-existing relationship. We know they have a good deal of business, and we are convinced our hotel has what they need. So the key is how do we do, and it's always about this now, how do we do enough homework and research so by the time we pick up the phone or send them an email, I prefer to pick up the phone because I think it's more likely to be responded to than an email. There's plenty of ways to follow up with an email, but I'm demonstrating that you don't have to cover all of this. I know you have a general session for 200 classroom. I know you have 4 breakouts for 50 people each. I know you have a gala banquet, an awards banquet on the last night. I know these things, so we don't need to talk about this. I know we have all of that. So now let's talk about what's the nature of your attendees and what have some successful conferences been in the past and how do we emulate that? How do we make it easy for you to now make this presentation to the decision makers that you're going to make the presentation to, especially a third party, because if we can make them look like a hero, they're going to come back to us over and over and over again because we know we're going to get it done. We've demonstrated truth, trust, and reliability, and that's what fosters loyalty. So yeah, if we're just feature spewing, if we're repeating what they already know, we do test calls for literally hundreds of hotels, and it's even in reservations, it's amazing. They say, have you gone to the website yet and looked at the different rooms we have? No, man, that's why I'm calling you. Please tell me about the different room types you have. Please tell me what your continental breakfast looks like. Is it an omelet? No, I have you on the phone. I called you. Don't send me back to the website for the love of.
I'm so interested to know though, do people really make phone calls to make reservations anymore?
Yes, they do.
It's shocking.
I'm on property and I
get finding in our evidence is they go shopping online and then they call the hotel directly because they know they can get a better rate.
Right. I get them every day, all day.
Sorry, and I think we see from our clients at least that people still call because they do want reassurance, because especially because of the pandemic and all that. I think in that sense brought hotels and travelers together. But I want to point it out that here in South America and Mexico and and even some countries in Europe is starting a lot with text messaging, because here I know United States is not it's not usual, but I just want to point out, since we are global here, we do have a lot of reservations coming from, for example, WhatsApp, and people here use it for business. So people like, but the thing is, people like the direct contact with hotels. And I think we are already heading to the end of this. I wish I could turn back time, like who was it who sang that? I don't know. Cher, I think. Yeah, Cher. I wish I could. We still have one important question to ask, and I don't want to finish without it. But before I do it, I just want to say hello to David. David saying that sorry I'm late. No problem, David. It's recorded. You can watch back, and to have 2 questions here that I'm going to take at the end. So let's go to the next topic, and then I take these 2 questions. The topic is now key performance indicators, because we were talking about being a high performing team, strategies, and what we see with a lot of hoteliers that we talk here is that they don't know how to evaluate and how to control or manage their teams. So I would love to hear what you 3 have to say about KPIs, the famous KPIs, key performance indicators in sales. And I'm going to start with you, Robin.
Okay, well, I'm right now a team of 1. So I measure based on whether or not I'm going to make my goal, obviously, each month. Also, I measure performance by our weekly STAR report. So that's how I do it.
Do you have you worked with, maybe not now, because since you're saying that you were a team of 1, but maybe in a previous experience, or I don't know, talking with other hotels, do you see like hotels, for example, that we hear have a control of the conversion rates, this kind of stuff, like either by channel or per agent or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, when I had the team, there were 5 or 6 of us, and there was a measurement of the time the amount of time it took to respond to a lead, their conversion rates. Yes, we did have that. And I believe there are several reports you can get out of Cvent that will also give you that information. Yeah.
Yeah, technology is there to help, but
Yeah.
we're doing research right now, and one of the questions to thousands, hundreds, not thousands, but hundreds of hotels. One of the questions is exactly like this: do you measure, and what do you measure? And yeah, it's still a lot of hotels don't do any kind of measure it for as shocking as it might seem. So that's why we brought this here, because I think it's important that they understand. This is a classic quote: if you're not measuring, you cannot improve it, something like that. And
Mhm.
I think
If it
I think
doesn't
you
get
can
measured, it doesn't get done.
well, that's another twist that I haven't heard. I like that one too. Yeah, and what about you, Steve? What do you think about KPIs they should follow?
There's a lot of performance indicators, but they all are they're all byproducts. They're all cause and effect. Signed contract is the key indicator. How many signed contracts did you bring in this week, this month? What's your quota? What's your goal? How many signed contracts? That's all that matters to me. God, the rest, I'll make you happy. The rest, I will take care of you. If you're, whether you're hitting that or not, there are a number of things that need to be accomplished, and these are monitorable, measurable yardsticks. How many calls did you make this week to new, previously unsold accounts? Mm-hmm. Do you have a list of new accounts that you are sneaking up on? And let's practice the homework and research. Have you done the homework and research? And I actually will role play that with a lot of my people. How many outside sales calls have you made? I want to go back. Cold calls are out. Cold calls are bad. Cold calls are a waste of time. A blitz is a very different thing. I'm all for blitzes, but that's a very coordinated effort requiring lots of different cold calls. Look, if I'm making a call on a client and they're in a building and I finish the call early and I go downstairs and I look at the reader board and there's 3 other clients there and I have a half hour, maybe then I'll stop by and maybe I'll drop off a brochure or a card or an M&M's jar full of candy, something. I'm not sure. Cold calls are not a good use of time. I want to know appointmented outside sales calls. When my salespeople go home on Friday, quote unquote, whether it's they've never come in and they're staying home, but the weekends, I want to know, what is their outside call schedule for the next week? How many appointments do they have where they're going out and visiting customers each week? How many lunches do you have planned? How many dinners do you have planned? How many breakfasts do you have planned? And most importantly, how many site inspections do you have? Because your statistical probability of turning a nothing into a definite dramatically increases if you can get them to come see your product. They get to meet your clients. They get to meet, hopefully, your general manager. They get to meet your director of catering. They get to meet, if you're a larger group, a convention services manager. If you're just a transient account, you get to meet my reservationist. So those are all empirical data. And I guarantee if someone's not hitting those numbers month after month after month, they're probably not hitting their booking goals either. So booking goals, signed contracts, number one, everything backs down out of that.
And I, of course, have a very different opinion, because I always do. And that is that, I think this is a tricky one, this KPIs question, because many hotels, and I know that this is not true internationally, but many, if not most hotels in the US have incentive plans that are determined on the corporate level or by the management company, et cetera, et cetera. And those incentive plans tend to focus on the things that whoever is being incented has the most, is the closest to, has the most impact on, or most can best control. However, those incentives do not always tie to the overall business goals of the business, of the property. So for example, if my incentive is based on top line revenue and Robin's incentive is based on profit, we're working at cross purposes, because I can book the least profitable business in the whole wide world and still hit my goal. And then Robin has to figure out a way to turn that profitable, most likely by cutting labor costs and providing a terrible experience. So instead of being a beautiful flywheel of service feeding sales and sales feeding service, it works in reverse, where we're cannibalizing each other. If you are able to impact incentives or the things that you track or the goals that you assign to your folks tie it to the overall business success of the hotel, period. If the owner is focused on top line and a specific top line revenue because she wants a multiple for the disposition strategy in 5 years, that's what you incent on. If the owner wants a specific profit number because he has distributions that he needs to give to investors, focus on that. And preferably focus on both and do it in every discipline and every department. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
No, but that's great, and it's
very
the
good.
yeah, and the best thing about doing that's why we do roundtables. As when I say we say Ask Suite, is because everybody have the chance of saying their own point of view, and I think that's what makes it great about it. And like I said, unfortunately, we are really hitting the time. The time is almost up, but I want to read some comments here that I think you guys would like to know as well. And maybe if you want to have if you have a comment on the comment, please just saying just start saying here. Carrie saying, and thank you, Carrie, because Carrie is very engaged with the discussion. If you're doing your homework and seeing the business booking travel in your area, you can see where you stand on room rates, banquet space, and provide a business case to switch hotels. Yeah, I think she nailed it, right, Robin? It's exactly that.
Carrie is spot on as well. I'm in the market, and my clients are not back in the office yet, so I have to come up with creative ways to have a conversation with them, or to have a sales call. Like I'll have one of my clients, she comes in, and I might do a tea party or something for her in the lobby of the hotel, or we'll meet at a restaurant. But most of the clients, they are not, like in the oil and gas buildings, you can't get in at all. They're not back yet. So that was probably one of the challenges at the beginning of the show, because they're not here. We can't get appointments like we were able to in the past. So we've had to come up with some creative ways.
And there's a really good chance that that's not going to change, that we can't just wait for it to get back to normal, because how many companies are completely work from home now? So
yeah. The good news is that they want to get out of their house, so I'll invite them somewhere. And that's a great opportunity for them to get out of the house and have lunch or a coffee or whatever it is. So Carrie, thank you so much for that comment. That was great.
Yeah, and David is saying here, we were talking about calls, I think it was with Steve, and he said there is an European increase in telephone sales. Post-COVID, we are calling hotels more now. Problem is talking for longer, using their time more. I think he meant, Steve, that sometimes the calls are not necessarily sales calls. And then it's what you were mentioning before about not focusing on sales. So I think that's what David is mentioning here. I don't.
Yeah, and let me. I saw something come up. A cold call.
Maybe it's
I'm not
just me.
talking about a telephone call or an email.
Yeah,
We're sending those all the time. We don't.
Okay.
We hope we've done enough homework and research that they'll be. I mean, getting in your car, going out, knocking on doors, and just putzing around the neighborhood, hoping you'll find someone. So, let me be clear on the definition of our definition of a cold call is when you're going out and trying to visit someone in their place of business without an appointment. You're not welcome. And to Robin's point, they're not there anyway.
Yeah. I think you're mentioning the Carrie's another comment. She's saying, I made a cold call phone and won a 9,000 RN per year, 2-year contract. Blitzing and have found that business are still not open to visitors, etc., etc. And then she's thanking all of us. And yes, I guess, unfortunately, that's it for today, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this live show. We try to at least start a conversation about hotel sales. There's a lot we could we could talk more in any of these topics, but we at least want to give you a general idea what it's happening and how to help you. So I hope you enjoyed this show, and I want to thank again my guests. I'm gonna start with Susan. Thank you so much, Susan, for being here today, for being our guest. And how can people get in touch with you the best way?
I would love for everyone to visit me at topfloorpodcast.com and to subscribe and give me a 5-star rating.
That's great. And we are, just so everybody knows, we are putting in the chat too all the information about the guests. And well, next I want to say thanks to Steve for being here as well. Thank you so much, Steve, for having the time to be with us. And how can our audience reach out to you or your services?
Best way is just to email me. If you want to call me, I'm happy to give out my number too. I love getting phone calls. So, and we'll provide all that information. And also you can visit the website, and there's several ways to back into the website to contact us either via email or telephone or text.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Stephen. Finally, Robin, thank you so much also for being here today, for being our guest. And same question goes to you. How can people get in touch with you, Robin?
People can find me on LinkedIn as well as Robin at don'tlookunderthebedpod.org. And I just like to say, we all have business on property right now, so let's not lose any of the business that we already have, and penetrate and saturate those accounts that we are currently working with right now.
Okay, thank you so much to the three of you for making this such a great discussion. Of course, a big thanks to our audience. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And if you are interested in our solution, which is connected to direct bookings and hotel sales, or if you have any comments or questions about the product, feel free to also visit our website, asksuite.com, and please follow us on LinkedIn. Thanks, everybody, for your time. I see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.